Good morning, my dear Latin 1 students. I hope you're all having a great day. No doubt you're looking forward to the weekend, which I hope will be great. But before that, there is one more piece of business for this week, and I'd like to start by tying up Lesson 9, which we started after break, as soon as we returned from break, and take you into Lesson 10. And it's going to serve as a review of some verbs that you already know and some of the new ones that we'll be getting to. Uh, I think it would be a good idea to have a piece of paper out and a pencil and try to take notes or supplement the notes that you have. All right. So we learned this a long, long, long time ago when I first met you. We started with two principal parts, which you can see all the way up at the top. The first principal part is in green. The second principal part is in red. Now, you know by now that we have four principal parts. We don't need the third and fourth yet. We only needed the first two. We needed the first one to give us amo, which as you know is I love, and we needed the second principal part to complete the rest of the conjugation. Remember, when we go from top to bottom, giving all the persons of a verb, that's called a conjugation, right? So we only needed two principal parts, and you no doubt remember the song. Amo, amas, amat. You got it, right? I don't need to go through that again. Okay. And then something else that you've already seen before. There are two systems of verbs, as you know, and each system has three tenses, giving us a total of six. And we started with the present system. In lesson 9, we moved on to the perfect system. But let's take a look at the present system, which you no doubt already know very well. The three tenses that we have are the present, the imperfect, and the future tense. And the present tense is what we just looked at. Very simple. The endings are important. The st, mus, tisunt, we're going to see those again and again. And we'll see them uh, probably all the way through to the end of this book. The imperfect tense is characterized by the BA. Okay, so this is the past ing, and you can see that all of these have the BA infix. Okay, not a prefix, not a suffix, an infix, and that tells us that we're dealing with something that was in the past and incomplete or imperfect, which is what incomplete means. It means something that is imperfect. And then, of course, the future. Uh, the book tells us that we could use I shall, but will works nicely. And you can see that while we start with bo and we have bu at the end for amabund, all the other ones have a bi. Okay, to build these three tenses, we only needed the first two principal parts. And you can see at the top of the screen that the fourth principal part is blank. Well, the third one is blank also. It's not going to be in a moment. We're not going to need the fourth one for a little while yet. That completes what's called the present system or the present active system. We'll get to something called the present passive much later. Okay, now we have this other system on the right side. In order to use that, we need the third principal part. Fortunately, almost all of the verbs that we see, that we have seen and we will see in this category are predictable, they're easy to build. There's really very little to memorize. We start with the first principal part, which ends in O, like muto. We drop the O and we add the are. Okay, and now muto, which is I change, which is easy to remember if you think of mutate and mutation, mutant, mutable, and things like that. We drop the O to go to the second principal part and add an are, mutare, to change. And then we drop the RE and we add the V, right? So 2PP, that means second principal part, drop RE, and add the V, or the we. So when I ask you on your quizzes and your test which letter characterizes the third principal part, of course you'll tell me that it's the V. Okay? And this part that's been highlighted here in red is called the perfect stem. Remember, the stem is the part of the verb that never changes. Okay? So it's onto this that we'll attach all of the endings to make the perfect tense. Okay, those are the endings. Wokawi, wokawisti, wokawit, wokawimus, wokawistis, wokawerant. And you could translate these, for example, wokawi, you could translate them in three different ways. I called, I have called, I did call, which is not listed here. So in English, I called and I have called are different tenses. We would list them separately. Fortunately, in Latin, these are the same. Could you please put your cell phones away? So I'll just give you 5 seconds. 4, 2. Okay, great. Thank you for putting them away. Please don't take them out again. Okay, and these are the endings for the perfect tense. Okay, so remember, perfect means they're completed actions. Let's take a look at some sentences using these. Puellam spectavi. Okay, so spectavi means I watched or I have watched. Puella is the girl. Puellam is the girl as the direct object. So your translation for this would be I watched the girl. I did watch the girl. I have watched the girl. Reginam expectavi. Okay, I awaited the queen. Fabulam amavi. I loved the story. Patriam amavi. I loved or I have loved the home country, the fatherland. Poetam amawisti. You loved the poet, or you have loved the poet. Donum dedi. The last one comes from do dedi, do dare dedi datum, which is to give, and this is one of the very, very few words, one of the few verbs rather, that does not have a V in the third principal part. And of course, this is just a little reminder that all of these end in M, which makes them the object. So really what we're saying when we say donum dedi is the gift I gave, the poet you loved, the country I loved, okay, which we would translate into English as I gave the gift, you loved the poet, and so on. Puelam spectavi. Okay, so spectavi means I watched or I have watched. Puella is the girl. Puelam is the girl as the direct object. So your translation for this would be I watched the girl. I did watch the girl. I have watched the girl. Reginam expectavi. Okay. I awaited the queen. Fabulam amavi. I loved the story. Patriam amavi. I loved or I have loved the home country, the fatherland. Poetam amawisti. You loved the poet, or you have loved the poet. Donum dedi. The last one comes from do dedi, do dare dedi datum, which is to give, and this is one of the very, very few words, one of the few verbs rather, that does not have a V in the third principal part. And of course, this is just a little reminder that all of these end in M, which makes them the object. So, really, what we're saying when we say donum dedi is the gift I gave, the poet you loved, the country I loved, okay, which we would translate into English as I gave the gift, you loved the poet, and so on.